Well, we have here another piece for the Vintage Media Museum. And I stumbled on this in eBay, and these are flexible records of sort. You see they're rather thin, and they are packaged separately. So there's a number of... All right, we're going to just abruptly jump to testing the Edison Voicewriter. I have no documentation whatsoever on this device, no schematics, no service manuals, no operation manuals, so I'm going from scratch here. Just fire it up. I guess that's the switch, power switch. I don't know. Let's see. Let's plug it in. Put on dictate. I don't know what that means. Dictate or conference. Okay, there was a light going on there. Okay, forward. I don't know what that means. Does that mean that it's at the end of the testing 1, 2, 3? Okay, so this switch affects the affects the speaker. Okay. Okay, so the unit is not spinning. I can turn it. Oh, there it is. Got it spinning. See this volume? It is volume. Tone, speed probably. Okay. Forward, back. So let's take a look at the camera. I can hear it running now. Let's put a tape in here, paper in there. On the chance that it's expecting that to be in there. Don't know if it is expecting that in there or not. Doesn't seem to be. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to pull this cover off, and it doesn't look like there's been any writing occurring on that disc. So let's pull the cover off and see if we can figure out if there's a belt that's torn or broken, or just what is going on with here that pull that kind of a secret screw. right. There we go. Not sure what all this means. Okay, so it is turning. Check, check, check. Not sure why that's squealing. Could be the caps or something, feedback. So I push it on back. Okay, the speed, let's show you, zoom in on the speed. It just pushes the belt up and changes the gear ratio or the belt ratio. So there's slow, and there's fast, slow, and fast. So that's just the pitch. And when you push the button, it advances the turntable. You see the gear engage right there, the belt, the pulley engage with the turntable. Okay, let's put a record in there. I'm not sure. I guess it just goes in there. Check, check, check. Okay, I've lubricated everything, lubricated all the switches, pulled all this assembly out, and I think I've actually got a recording going. So let's see if I can play back. All right, I don't know. I can see the recording, and let's forward it. All right, now let's try recording right there. Okay, we're recording. Well, all right, we're recording. All right, we're recording. I don't know if we're recording or not. Check, check, check. Check, check, check. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Checking 1, 2, 3. Are we recording, or I'm not getting any modulation? I don't know what these switches do.
I'm not getting any modulation here, but I'm going to go ahead and continue to test. Testing 1, 2, 3. Checking 1, 2, 3. Checking 1, 2, 3. Okay, there we got a pot. Okay, must have an issue with the gain on the speed of the motor. I don't know, but now I've got a modulation light. Let's see if you can see that on the camera. Checking 1. Yeah, you can see it. 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. This is the Edison recording device, a Voicewriter. It's a 1966 model. It has transistors, and we're getting a little bit of feedback. You can hear it in the speaker there. We'll just we've got modulation on the lamp here, which is a good sign that we're probably recording. So we'll rewind. We'll reset the needle on the record player and see if we actually have a recording here. This is the date is April 20th, 21, 2022. And this is Kent, the Vintage Tech. All right, we'll rewind. There it is. Alrighty, testing 1, 2, 3, testing 1, 2, 3, checking 1, 2, 3. I don't know if we're getting a decent volume level here. We'll turn the volume that way and see if that makes a difference. And we'll turn the volume back this way and see if it makes a difference. I do have quite a good modulation bulb flickering, which is a good indication that it's trying to record. Let's see, I don't remember what was volume and what was tone, but checking 1, 2, 3, checking 1, 2, 3. We don't have a green light here anymore. Not sure what happened there, but we're getting close to the end of the record. I can see it's getting ready to bump. All right, let's flip the record over. And let's record.
I've fiddled with this thing for several hours, and so I've cut a lot of the video out because it's just me tinkering, trying to figure everything out. But every few minutes I would discover something else about the unit and how it operates. In any case, I did put one of the records back in that had voice writing on it, and was really tickled to hear some gentleman dictating letters, and one right after the other. And so I'll let you listen to a couple of seconds of that, and I think you'll get a kick out of it. I'm assuming that this was recorded around the late 1960s, since the unit itself is a 1967, I think, because it's transistorized. They started making these in the late 50s. By the time the transistors came out, it was into the late 1960s. So anyway, here's one of the recordings.
Nice of you to remember me on my birthday coming up. I'm getting tired of birthdays, but messages from a sincere friend like you make them messages from a sincere friend like you make them bearable. Period. I want to thank you again. Please let me know how you're getting along, Kamadesh. I know that you have had more than you are okay, period. Are you, question mark? Most sincerely, put this WU mailgram with the letter. That will go back to her, but the telegram, mailgram itself. Dear Jerry and Luba, if you haven't written it right, just say Dear Luba and Jerry. L-U-B-A-H. Dear Luba and Jerry. Your very practical birthday present was received, and this is to acknowledge and to thank you for it, dash. However, you should not have done that very paragraph. That was quite an event, dash. Did you get a chance, Jerry, get a chance to talk to anybody who was here, who was there? Luba, L-U-B-A-H, Pete, and Winston, and if she is the person, tell Donna, D-I-N-A, Donna, that I'm waiting for her to get a little older before I start quoting her. See. Do you mind if I call you cousins? Question mark. There may be some who come within that category, but whom I would not claim, dash, but you are not among those, period, those underscore. I claim you, exclamation mark.
Alrighty, after working with this thing for several days, I have come to several conclusions which I'll begin to share now. Okay, we are here with the Edison Voicewriter, and I wanted to go over a few things here that I've done to this particular unit in trying to get it to play, to move around. The drive motor right here drives a driven intermediate pulley, and the speed is controlled by this little mechanical bar right here that pushes up and down on the belt and changes the belt ratio of the gear ratio, so to speak, or pulley ratio, and so consequently the speed of this pulley. And this pulley drives this clutch wheel tire, and this clutch tire engages the drum of the platter, or the platen. So and a solenoid kicks that in and out to make it drive. So we'll see that happening in just a minute. There's a lift mechanism that releases the record, and when you pull the handle up, similar, let me see if I can lift this without dropping everything, similar to this model, when you lift this lever right here up like that, it pushes down on this mechanism and releases the heads. So we'll see that. See the head, the cutting head and the playback head are lifted up, and then there's a center post that's lifted up to allow you to pull the record out. And you slide the record out, and that center post fits right down in here to keep the record centered. Now you can see that this record has been cut. You see the grooves in it. The same with this. Two long cuts are two long dictations are here. So we'll flip it up onto the long side and open up the jaws. There's a little two lights right here. The one light is controlled by this switch, and it control when there's a record in the unit. This light illuminates. It was originally green and it burned out, so I replaced it. That is a 2.5 volt lamp. Let me see if I've got another one right here. 2.5 volt lamp right there, an incandescent lamp. and it burnt out when I was fiddling with it because they're very fragile. And then when the record is missing, this lamp illuminates and it's red to indicate that you don't have a record in the unit. So there's the volume control, tone control, and speed. There's a whole drive system that moves this head. This is the head mechanism that rides along the record. Like I said, the cutting head and the playback head are here, and they float on the album or the record material. And there's a motor down inside here that drives this assembly up and down to locate it in the playback position or the record position as the record is turning. That mechanism that drives that was completely frozen up. I was afraid the motor was burned out, but it wasn't. So I've got this riding up and down correctly now, and the turntable is turning now. Replace the lamp. There's some adjustments back here on the unit that I don't know what they control. They're part of the amplifier, and I don't know if there's just a recording bias or what that causes it to vibrate more intensely, or a louder cut or a shallower cut. I can't seem to figure out what those do, and I can't find any material on the unit anywhere. No schematics available. So if you can help me with that, I would be obliged to you. There's an indexing mechanism here. Let's see if I can pull it out without knocking over a camera. The indexing system works off of a string that is wrapped around this pulley right here. And as this transport moves up and down, the string is wrapped up on the pulley, and it pulls the index marker up and down along the track here to indicate where it's at in its on the record. And then there are paper, I showed you earlier, there are paper indexes that slide under here that you can punch. It has a punch tool that punches holes in the index paper to let the secretary know that that's the beginning of a letter and that's the end of a letter, and so on and so forth. The person doing the transcribing would record the message and then punch this paper at the beginning and ending and make corrections, and then send this paper along with the recording to the transcriber, who would insert the paper into their machine and then move the slider up to the beginning of the recording and also notice where corrections were made on the paper. Then there's a lamp that sits right here, this lamp, and it fits right inside here and indicates the modulation. You can see the glass that will flicker. That indicates voice modulation and whether the unit is turned on. So it'll flicker as you talk to indicate that you're recording correctly. So let's see, what else are we missing here? Oh yes, the cutting solenoid is down in here. It's a pretty hefty solenoid, and this cutting solenoid is controlled right here. Controls this arm. Got a piece of wire. This arm right here. And that arm, when you push the button to indicate a letter, beginning of a letter or a paragraph or a correction, you can pull the switch down or push it up, and it'll pull the solenoid or push the solenoid, and that pushes this and causes it to punch a hole in the tape. So here's the punch areas right here. See if we can show you. So when it's pulled, it punches a hole in the paper on one side, or when you push it the other direction, it pushes the other one to show whether you got a correction or a letter begin. So that's what that's all about. Let's see. I've got an issue right now with the player. I think there may be an errant cap buried down in here somewhere. This cap is okay. Could be this cap. There might be another cap here that is, there's some transistors back up in here. There's that solenoid. There's a big cap here, a filter cap. I don't know what's underneath all of this. It could be this. This is just a 0.25 microfarad. Might be part of the motor control. I'm not sure. But the unit still hangs up and holds this relay right here, this solenoid, not the relay, this solenoid gets pulled in and locked in place. And I have to cycle the power completely off in order to reset the unit to work correctly. But I seem to have all of the functionality working correctly now. Recording is a little bit off. We're going to experiment with that as we continue to work between the two units here. I've got this other Voicewriter here, an older tube model. I'm hoping to get one of them working well. I'm waiting on a microphone cable, a microphone and a power cable, and another part set of this older model of the Voicewriter. So this is a later model. It's transistorized, and this is a tube set. But they both use the same records, and I've got some, I don't know, probably 35, 45, maybe 50 blanks available. I've been using these for experimenting on, and so let's just play a little bit of what's on this record, and we'll see how it sounds. I'm going to plug the unit in. And there's an on-off switch over here that's controlled by laying the microphone down into a little cradle, and it turns the power on and off. But we're going to, let's see, unplug that. Okay, there we go. Now you see the yellow light indicating that there's a record in the unit. If we pull the record out, it'll change to red. So there's red because there's missing a record. Put the record back in. There we go. All right, now we're going to hold this down, and it should engage. Let's see if we can get it to. See if we can get it to back the. There it goes. It's very slow. That's that separate little motor down in there. Right, there's stop switches there. Okay, now if we start it, volume, speed. So this is the playhead. I can lift it off of the record there.
Write him to his office or to his home, you remember? Right this way, it goes to Mr. and Mrs.
Speed.
Post Office Box 1804-28001. Friends.
Tone.
Your
volume.
generous act, particular, but this particular card which you chose assume meaning during paragraph. Express to you. Sincere, or say sincere, but express genuine, sincere, or say it, but also make a cheat code. Mr. and Mrs. Gaffin, Jaffa, 4118, Randolph Shop, friend, speaking to you from the concurrent, sincere, make a cheat code. Mr. and Mrs. Harry F. Meltzner, Meltsner, number 68, Brittany Court.
Yeah.
Charlotte, North
I
Carolina,
think.
211. Let me
Stop it. I think this setup, I get a hum. Let me turn the volume up. Well, I have to play.
General Act to the North Carolina Judicial Paragraph. I was interrupted here by the telephone.
So,
I completed.
has something to do with the amplifier, and I don't know if it's the record section, which we're going to experiment with. We're going to adjust these controls here to see if we're getting some kind of increased gain on the record. So there's the playback. So let's take out this record, and as we hold that down, it's going back home to the beginning. You can see it moving. Okay, and let's take one of these records that I did a little bit of recording on. There's some center area there that's not being used, and we'll index the unit into that area somehow. Okay, by moving it forward. All right, that's the empty space. Now, if we here's the what's happening is that it's continuing to push forward. When I push this button on this review button, it's driving this forward. It's because this is still stuck. So let's kill the power. See it release. Now when I push record, it's working to some degree. Okay, checking 1 2 3, testing 1 2 3, testing 1 2 3. We've got feedback over here onto the speaker. Not sure where that's coming from, where this feedback is coming from, but I can hear the feedback, and you can see the volume control modulating here. If I turn it down almost completely off, doesn't seem to make any difference. So we're going to continue to record here for a few seconds, and we'll see if we're getting any kind of modulation. There we go. And see if we're getting any kind of modulation. And while we're recording, I'm going to go ahead and adjust these controls here to see if that's making any difference on. Oh yeah, it is. Look at the difference it's making there. Okay, so maybe that's what this is. This is the record gain. I don't know what this is doing, but we'll try to see if that makes a difference. I'm going to turn it all the way up, and you can see the gain of the modulation change on the light bulb. So supposedly we're cutting right now with the cutting head. So let's reverse this, back the heads back up, and see if we actually got a recording. Okay.
Okay, so maybe that's what this is. This is the record gain. I don't know what this is doing. I'm going to try and see if that makes a difference. I'm going to turn it all the way up. And you can see the gain of the modulation change on the light bulb. So supposedly we're cutting right now with the cutting head. So let's reverse this, back the heads back up, and see if we actually got a recording.
Wow, that's great. So we got our first cutting on a very early record player cutter, and you can see my voice is cut into the record there, and I'm very pleased with the fact that we got it to record and play back a decent amount of audio by adjusting these gain controls. I don't know what this control is, but this one definitely is the record gain. So We figured that much out. Also, this pot, for those of you that are experimenting with this pot right here controls the speed of this travel. Not sure if it controls the amount of power or current to the motor that drives this or what it does, but it seems to affect the speed of this travel when we push it down. Yeah. See, it should be traveling to the end. So let's cycle the power. There's that release again. There it goes. See it move? All right. So, I don't know, we still have a problem with this motor, this relay or solenoid, and holding in and not dropping out. And the controls, you would think that this would cause the head to go backwards and this would cause the head to go forward, but it doesn't. Pulling this down plays, and pushing it forward advances it. Also, on a forward functionality, it really should be pushing up on the heads so that it doesn't scratch the record. So there's definitely some issues in how everything is responding to the key switches, but we're able to play back and record now. So I'm going to reassemble this in another video, get it all back together, but I'm going to go ahead and publish this video because some of you that are working on these pieces of equipment might be able to help me. There is one other thing I'm going to do before I publish this, and that's I'm going to pull this head assembly off, flip it over, and just look at those heads, and we'll see if they're okay. The fact that it recorded really well just now may indicate that I don't need to clean those heads. I think they're okay. It's obviously it's cutting properly. So in any case, this is the Edison Voicewriter, and let's see, is there anything else that we haven't mentioned? There's a switch here on the side that will toggle between this speaker or the speaker on the handset, and then there's a switch here that's marked CONF and DICT, and I don't know if that has any difference. Let's see. No, it doesn't seem to be making any difference. No, it doesn't seem to make any difference. So we got to be able to figure out why this solenoid is not disengaging. Could be a dirty contact. There are all kinds of micro switches here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I mean, and then there's some down inside here. All these little leaf switches that can get corroded. I have sprayed each one of them, and each one does seem to have a function that's working. This is the reverse switch right here.
Okay, well, it's been a lot of fun playing with the Edison Voicewriter dictation device, circa 1960, somewhere in that range. It's a transistorized unit, as you saw. I have two other units, both are tube units. One is a playback only unit and one is a record and playback. And I was able to get both of them to work to some degree. One will play back a pre-recorded disc, and one will record but will not play back. So there's some other functions that are going on with those, but I've had a lot of fun tinkering with these. I did one more recording of my voice, just a very short clip that I'll add to the end of this video to let you listen to the improved audio quality of the recording. I was pretty tickled with the actual cut of a flexible disc on a 1950s, 1960s flexible disc dictation device. So I'm very pleased with that. I'll button this thing back up, put it back in its briefcase, and put it up on the shelf, and maybe in another 60 years someone else will come along and discover then a 120-year-old recording and a 60-year-old recording of me. So anyway, I appreciate you watching The Vintage Tech, and I appreciate your comments and your support.
The date is May 10th or something like that. The year is 2022, and I'm recording on a 1959, which is a 63-year-old Voicewriter Edison disc, and using a 1960s, late 50s, early 60s recording device. So we'll see if this is actually going to record and play back. Somebody will